Well, here's what we know about Friday's tragic series of events that took place at the CDC headquarters. Investigators say the shooter, 30-year-old Patrick White, first tried to get into the CDC headquarters but was stopped by security. Moments later, he drove across the street to a CVS pharmacy and opened fire. Now, it's unclear if White was killed by police or died by self-inflicted gunshot. One CDC source tells 11Alive today that the staff at all Atlanta area campuses are ordered to work from home all this week. Killed in the attack was 33-year-old Officer David Rose of the DeKalb County Police Department. He joined the force last September and had recently graduated from the police academy. Officer Rose leaves behind a wife and 2 children, a third on the way. Over the weekend, several CDC workers came together to find comfort and a source for answers over what happened. One of them, Dr. Elizabeth Soda, who left the campus just minutes before the gunfire. She told our Dan Kennedy that she started getting messages about the shooting as soon as she got home.
I broke down in tears. I probably cried for 4 or 5 hours that night, just trying to process how all of this happened, how we got here as a country, and what it's going to mean for our agency moving forward.
Here to help us find some answers is Marcus Snipe. He's the head of security and safety for our parent company, TEGNA. He also served as a special agent in charge of the U.S. Secret Service. Mrs. Snipe, welcome back to the show.
Happy to be here.
All right, glad you're joining us. Let's start off with this. The CDC headquarters is a sensitive federal facility. Even though this gunman was stopped at security, somehow he went across the street, he fired back on that building. Is that even a shock for you? Is that's still possible?
Shock, I'm gonna call it a shock. Obviously, and I not knowing the investigation, obviously I'd like to throw that caveat out there, but you know, a shooter like this or a person like this would probably try or surveil that facility. I'm sure he had been by that facility a couple of times, kind of knew what he's up against, so he decided, hey, I'll try to breach their security this way, and he couldn't do it, so he elected to go for the next option, which is to try to attack that facility from across the street or nearby. So I'm not surprised that once he was confronted at the front gate and he couldn't breach security or make it past security, he decided to go with another option and still try to inflict some damage and carnage.
Yeah. Break down what you can for us about the protection of that Clifford Road campus at the CDC.
It sounds like they had a pretty robust plan in place. Obviously, this individual was not able to get on the campus where he obviously could have done a lot more damage. It's a slippery slope when it comes to facilities like the CDC. Being the facility that it is, it garners a lot of attention. A lot of people protest. A lot of people have opinions on what kind of work they're doing, and some of it's controversial, obviously, over the last few years. But there's a happy medium. You have that campus, you have that government building, and you have private organizations in the area. You have residences in the area. And you have other organizations in the area. So you can't just shut everything down for the sake of security. That's just not realistic. You have to have a happy medium between that facility and the general public and those private organizations and those residences there. So I think in not knowing in depth what the security apparatus or plan is for the CDC, I am sure that's been discussed. I think they have, contingency plans for events like this. I'm sure there's training. This facility, like I said, it draws a lot of attention. So it is no doubt that they considered, hey, who do we have around us? How can we not affect them and keep our security robust?
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. The balance between, because obviously the inside of the building is one thing, right? When something happens inside, and you probably have the bulk of your security inside. But when something like this takes place on the exterior, right? Across the street, maybe from down the way, right? What's the balance there? Is that more of the local authorities' jurisdiction there?
Yes, and it is. It's it's coordination and cooperation between two groups. The facilities security and I think the DeKalb County, the local authorities, and there's a synergy that has to happen. For instance, if this happens, then hey, you respond. If this happens, it's our responsibility. That's a back and forth. That's a constant conversation, and that's a constant liaison with those two facilities, back and forth. Throughout the days, months, years that they have, so they know what everyone's response is going to be. And you put that together. You put that together with your security plan for the overall building and the overall community. Because hey, like I said, hey, here's a high-profile building, so hey, we may get attention here, or we may call, the DeKalb Police Department here more times than not because someone shows up who may have a mental disability or what have you, or some protester may show up because they disagree with a particular, medication that we're working on or trying out. So you have that communication, you have that plan with the local police. You have to have that synergy, especially when it comes to a facility like this.
Yeah. And what are going to be the lessons learned from this, you think?
That's a great question, great observation, because after every incident, no matter how tragic it is, and even if it wasn't tragic, you have to do what we call an after action report. You have to see what went wrong and what went right. And I think one of the positives that's going to come out of this is, hey, the CDC, the DeKalb Police Department, hey, they're going to look at this incident and they're going to put together a plan or improve their plan so that, hey, if an incident like this or a similar incident occurs nearby at the campus, hey, here's the proper response. This is what we'll do going forward. And this is where we made our mistakes. And we make sure we don't make these mistakes again.
That's right.
So I think if there's a silver lining in all this, is that, hey, yes, both the facility and local law enforcement will come up with a plan now, a more robust plan. They'll critique their actions, they'll critique what happened, they'll critique their security plan, and they'll just make it better.
Yeah. All right. Marcus Snipes, thanks so much for your insight, and thanks for joining us this morning.